Go.
Yep.
Help us out to help you out.
Yep.
All right. We got more coming to you, and this is going to be coming to you. Corey's going to speak about quantum computing on chip,
Sure.
bracing for a revolution.
Yep.
So take it away, Corey.
Okay, cool. So this one, I'll just we'll do a little bit of a talk as we kind of get going because we haven't talked about this before. But basically, this one, the title is "Quantum Computing on a Chip: A Brace for a Revolution." So okay, we'll back up a second. And okay, what quantum computing? What? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so you're probably watching our show on a phone, a tablet, maybe a laptop, a
If you're
desktop,
lucky.
possibly TV, right? These are all things that run on computer chips. And I'm gonna call them traditional computer chips because now we're gonna quantum computer chips. And the idea is in your computer or whatever device you're holding, right? There's electrons flying around through probably layers of silicone in a chip, and they're doing computations. And it's
Yes.
all done. There's actually a lot of things going on in there, lots of components. It's amazing how small they get them if you kind of look at this stuff. But there is, if you wanted a faster machine,
Mm-hmm.
you could get a newer processor or put processors together and have more of them together. But they're always little bit limited by things like heat and just the basic design of how it functions.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, quantum computing. Okay, again, this will be pretty high level.
Go for it.
And I wouldn't claim to be an expert either, but just kind of talking about it. So quantum computing, the idea is that you can capture particles that are capture like electrons or something that can act like more than one in more than one state at one time inside the computer. So if you know a little bit of computing, you'll know that there's things that are captured in binary, one's on or off, that kind of thing.
Right.
And there's always a limitation on how many of those computations you can have because the thing you're talking about is either on or off. Or it's either one or zero. Well, the way the quantum computers can function, those the units we're talking about can be in multiple kind of states at one time. And
Mm-hmm.
that being the case, if you have more than one of them, which you're going to have as many as you fit in there, then you can have each one in different states at one time, and then suddenly your computing power goes quite high.
It's like so just so I could paraphrase this so people that are watching, right?
Yeah,
So
sure.
it's like taking quad core processors and layering them on top of them on top of them on top of them, putting multiple cores of processors in one embedded chip and then calling that your new CPU, correct?
In a
To a
way, yeah.
degree, right?
In a
But
way,
each
yeah.
one houses its own infrastructure, almost like a virtual machine operating in the same universe.
Yeah, we'll get that
All
to
right.
kind of what this article's talking about as
Gotcha.
well.
All right.
So
Just so I'm not lost.
yeah, so typically also what's been going on. So companies like IBM and Google even and some other ones you might have heard, company like Wave. There's companies that have been playing around with quantum computing for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've seen diagrams, I don't know, maybe you can pull one up too. They're usually as has been the case with computing in the past as well. They quite large in the beginning, and then they try to get them to scale down.
Much like the life of a transistor almost.
Much like the scale of traditional computer chips.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
getting down 5 nanometers. They're getting pretty tiny.
Yeah.
But going along with that, part of the way that we can get some level of accuracy and some level of dependability out of these quantum computers is they have to be all those little as I said, those atoms or whatever, those things that we can use as qubits have to be stored super cold, like
Ah, so
as
there's a
like
catch.
super cold, because we're trying to get them down to as close to near absolute zero as we can. And we're talking like down 5 Kelvin or something, minus 482 degrees
Ooh.
Fahrenheit, very very cold. And that gives you some hurdles, because we're trying to
A
basically the
little
idea is we're
bit.
trying to get down to superconductor levels where we can get as much, let's call it, error out of the system as we can, so that all of these computations we're using or giving you what you want, they're not erroneous errors, the nature of how the qubits work. Okay, fast forward to what we're talking about here in this article here. This company is it's CQC, and they're basically saying that they've developed a computer chip that kind of can act as the in between typical qubits that are super cooled, cryo
Mhm.
cooled, and all of the current equipment that's needed to decipher and control the current cryo controlled computers that are currently being out there developed.
Mhm.
And they've also, in addition to that, they've kind of um, laid out a OS operating system that manufacturers and anybody who's kind of moving into this quantum computing space can use, and
Mhm.
kind of be like a baseline. Everybody can talk the same language and really help the revolution speed up. In the same way, like if you said, okay, we developed our own operating system for some new computer, you'd be like, oh, that's great, but nobody else knows how to use it. But he said, oh, we built our new computer off of Linux. Like, oh,
Huh.
anybody who knows Linux can help us or develop their own off of what we've done. So this thing is called
Delta Flow,
Delta
right?
Flow OS. Is what
Mm-hmm.
they're calling it, Delta Flow OS. That's their OS. And so they're obviously hoping that people can adopt, help speed up the quantum computer revolution by using this new OS. But also, this computer chip they developed is a system on chip, meaning that it's programmed in Delta Flow. Right, I'm saying that right. I'm not gonna mess it up, right? Delta
Right.
Flow, yeah, Delta Flow OS, and it can now be the interface bridge between your qubit system, wherever you store your very very cold qubits,
Mm-hmm.
and then all the equipment that has to be on the front end.
Okay.
And so that's kind of where they're going with their chip, their system on chip, and their OS, obviously.
Right.
And so,
So let me ask you a question.
yeah,
So basically, this Delta Flow OS is your front end. Your back end is these multiple core processors that are all sitting there together. And the way this thing comes together, then the layers that they're trying to do, they still have to worry about cooling. But overall, you're still seeing a 50% or what, 100% increase in the output of these things in the quantum
they
in
s-
their
they still
they're saying,
have
right?
to you still have to cool the qubit array
Right.
wherever the qubits are. That's all the same. But basically, they've layered like let's call it command code. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? They've kind of figured out the command code and layer that on top of a classical processor
Wow.
as a front end, right?
Hmm.
And then they've done the interface part with the qubits on their side. So you kind of, yeah, that diagram right there kind of tries to show you what they're kind of going with.
Hmm.
So that top part says qubit array. That's where it would interface with literally next to in the cryo cooled area,
Right.
and the rest of it is kind of down like a traditional processor. So and
Interesting.
since it's going to be written again, and hopefully in this language that becomes a bit more widespread, then it'll be something that if you or I got certified in Delta Flow, and then some company that does quantum computing was putting out an application, say, "Oh, do you know Delta Flow?" But yeah, yeah, I do. Then that would be obviously benefit to you, but it's trying to help the whole industry
And
forward.
it kind of reminds me of the fact that simplifications, like the way that Apple has kind of taken this M1 chip, put so many cores on it, and then made all their silicon into one basis where everything is baked into the CPU, which is kind of
Yep.
interesting, right? But it seems like this is going that extra step further where you're getting one little small brain that's controlling all the little big brains, and then all the big brains are just layered on top of each other to the point where you go, quantum computer.
Yeah, it's I
To
mean,
hyper simplify, right?
yeah, yeah, but I guess I'll just try to be clear too. If you're a little familiar with the subject, I'm definitely not saying that somebody's figured out a way to get rid of the cryo cooled area and put the
Hmm.
qubits on the chip, and
Gotcha.
boom, you're gonna take this chip out of a box, pop it in your computer, and it's gonna have its own OS, and it'll be a quantum computer. No, no, that's not.
That doesn't.
I'm not
That's not how
saying
it
that.
works. Okay.
But nevertheless, it is a step forward in the right direction, to hopefully see faster development. And if you're new to the subject of quantum computers, again, why are we even talking about what Okay,
Well,
they operate different than a regular computer. Great, whatever.
right.
The whole point is that they can do so many more calculations and things so much quicker than even supercomputers. If you thought about supercomputers like what was it, Blue, or there's a whole bunch of ones in different countries now that things, but they're obviously way more powerful than your computer in your hand or in your house. But quantum computers, once we get enough qubits going, they will easily surpass the computational classical classical computers.
I
If you find some numbers while you're pulling them up, yeah,
Okay, so I guess the thing is that right now, yeah. If you, well, here's the funniest thing, right? This is the advancement in computers that we've seen so far, and this is basically what happens when you get these increases in computing, and that is that your smartphone is millions of times more powerful than the Apollo 11 guidance computers,
oh
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So if you look at the leaps in technology, this is the next leap in technology to make computers fast enough to keep up with what is ever growing pipelines, right? So basic
yeah.
in the line of
Got
development,
another one.
yeah, when we would talk about video game development back then, some 9 million computations would have been like, wow, that's crazy. But now if you could get to 90 billion, that's crazy. So it seems like every time we make bigger processors, bigger hard drives, and bigger throughput on motherboards, there's always someone out there that says, well, now that it's bigger, we're going to take advantage of that space and we're going to make more complex programs, right?
Yep.
And obviously, this quantum leap is going to be able to do even more and more and more down the pipeline of what people should expect computers to be able to do in the not too distant future.
One last quote. This one's a little dated.
Right.
It's not too dated. It's from February this year,
Mhm.
February 21. But this quote kind of gives you maybe an idea. It says, "In 200 seconds, the machine performed a mathematically designed calculation so complex that it would take the world's most powerful supercomputer, IBM Summit, 10,000 years to do. So that makes Google's quantum computer about 158 million times faster than the world's fastest supercomputer as of February 28th.
Wow.
So that's that. I guess that's what I'm saying. And they're just the possibility there for these to really do. They go in every field almost. You do a little bit of search on quantum computers, you see they're going to have a huge impact on crypto.
Oh yeah.
Not cryptocurrency, but cryptography, where online security for transactions, that whole thing about crypto with that. I mean, obviously there's the advantages to science and space exploration. Anything
I'm sure
that has
weather
to do with
prediction,
amazingly fast computers
Oh, yeah.
would be needed to do. You could figure out the interface and the actual question of how to ask it, pump it into a quantum computer, and
go with it.
And happier with time taking you to get that time back out. So, and I know I'm super generalizing this. If anybody's watching the video that knows more about obviously quantum mechanics, but quantum computers, I'm kind of a amateur reading about this stuff.
Yeah, but
and I am quite interested in it. But nevertheless, we're trying to comment on the impacts.
Yeah, but we're gonna have this.
So
we're gonna have this at some point.
That's the thing to say.
At some points in our generation, I think quantum computers are going to be at the level where, and here's the way I envision quantum computers working for all of us, which is we're not going to have it, right? I don't think our devices that we carry with us are going to get much smarter than the generations that we have right now, because cloud computing seems to be where it's all at, right?
Yes, yep.
So we're going to have this, I think, in the typification of we're going to have access to it, because our next level of cloud computing will, I think, be done in the quantum world.
Yeah, that's probably a fair assessment now, especially because we talked about some of the hurdles of just keeping the qubits stable by needing them cryo-cooled. At least that's how we're doing it now. So, yeah, but exactly as you said, though, yeah, if we can leverage that capability for whatever user wants to, but via the cloud, then so you would have access to a quantum computer level of calculations, but it wouldn't be in your phone.
So here's some applications that I'm going to throw out there if you were going to invest in this market, or what places I might see this happening, right? Number one, autonomous driving. It'd be different. You would have a very low level autonomous driving ability on your vehicle if you lost your connection to the cloud. However, when connected to the cloud with multiple cars operating on the same highway, I could see that being offhanded to that type of quantum computing. Also, in aerospace, right, you would still need to have sophisticated computers on board for any automated flying devices that are out there. However, to have them cloud connected and have it quantum compute, say, air traffic control or something in that nature, that to me sounds like it would be like a legitimate place where this would be a technology where it would be implemented, right? And lastly, pharmaceuticals.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Especially in that place, if operating or diagnosis or reconstruction of DNA and doing that type of number crunching that you need, I could see that being a massive step forward. So,
I know they already use them for things like trying to solve different, or rather, in a way, almost brute force try different things for cancers, other treatments like that, and you can just run so many scenarios through a quantum computer.
Makes sense to me.
More effectively than you could with a traditional computer, even a supercomputer. As I say that, I also remember that I was involved with a program you could use on your own home computer that would do the same thing. You could it was
it by SETI, right?
It was SETI had theirs for looking for things that with space, but there's also ones there's a whole bunch of them, but they're called distributed computing, I think they call them. But anyway, I'm kind of off topic. But anyway, the idea is that it's pretty interesting. You can expect that China, Google, IBM, they're all trying to get more qubits into their devices or into their machines, so that the ability that they can go even faster and larger things is just going to continue. And it's something to.
I think the U.S. military would love to have that as well. So that would be very interesting to see that they would have that ability to quantum compute at those levels.
Oh yeah.
So Hey, let's move on to a different subject,
Yeah.
and we'll take a comment here
Yep.
from David,
Yep.
and
Sure. So thanks so much for listening to that about quantum computing. Please like, share, subscribe to the channel. Helps us out a whole bunch as we try to bring you a diverse amount of different topics, whether it's obviously aviation, cars, tech. We like to.
Mhm.
But yeah, thanks for that. Please, we love the support and helps us out a lot. And yeah, thank
Yeah, now David just had a comment about the electric aviation. How much energy is used as a percentage during takeoff? Lots, yes.
Yes,
And
yeah.
why don't they transfer the power of takeoff using runway buzzer bars or tethers or VTOL? Okay, well, here's the biggest one.
Well, there's obviously infrastructure problems there
Well, there's
with the
infrastructure
airport itself.
problems, number one, and secondly, major commercial airports in bad weather conditions have a tough time keeping runways clean and keeping debris off of them. And how they would transfer that, if it was buzz bars, I would almost venture to say that the next wave of technology there would be microwave beaming, because I know that they've been using that for a while in testing gliders. It's not exactly ready for prime time yet, but I can imagine that in the distant future, that's going to be one of the things that they might look at as some sort of power transfer, not even during the takeoff phase, but probably during the long range of flight. Could be. Just a thought.
Nikola Tesla would love that answer.
Right.
No,
Hey.
Nikola Tesla talked. We still haven't sorted all out, supposedly. But supposedly Nikola Tesla, if you don't remember who he is,
Oh, I
back
know
in
who
the
he
day,
is.
he did a bunch of stuff with electricity. One of which was claimed to be able to wirelessly transfer electricity.
Oh yeah. I mean, it exists. So, but
So
good idea. Fantastic idea. I like it, and it's real forward thinking. But there's probably 6 or 7 different solutions that I would think people are working on out there. So hey, we got to move on to something else that's got me excited.
oh yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm